Well, that is a nice copper coin, but oh, Doug, do you know what time it is?
45 up.
Who says 45 of, Doug? It's quarter after. Who says 45 of, Doug? Nobody does. It's quarter after. What's up, guys? Court Order here. Super fun show. I'm excited to have it on tonight. We've got, of course, GMMD himself, Brad Martin from Green Mountain Metal Detecting. We're going to be talking how he films his videos way up in the woods, some of the great cinematography he uses, the storyline. Always loved his work, the original music. You guys are familiar with him. I'm super excited to have him on as a guest tonight. So it's going to be a really action-packed, fun show with Brad Martin. He's going to come on in about 11 minutes or so. Excuse me. Right at 7:30. I'll let everyone kind of get in and settle in. I'll say a couple of quick hellos. I do see Smokin' Louie in there. Big Wave, Digging Life, Jim Cloak, Trish Harrison, Robert Dunn, Mud Swat, Toledo Tab, all sorts of people in there. I'll get more. Oh, look, Hot Mess Fishing, Alicia, who is in the chat, one of my moderators. Thank you, Alicia. I do want to bring in some of the gang, of course, so I will start off with none other than Dog Tag Doug, Mexican Doug, Jane Fond Doug. What are you doing? Every time I bring you in, Doug, it looks like I'm interrupting you writing a mystery novel.
You are. Yeah. I'm prepping.
Yeah, I have to put like one of those electric shock collars on him, so that way he knows when I'm about to bring him in.
Well, that's what I was doing, getting my collar.
Oh, you're going to put that on today in honor of Brad.
Well, I saw Diggin' Virginia said he's never seen my collection, so I figured I'd get most of them out on my collar. I still got bunches of them that I have to hang yet. So
yeah, that collar is so big and heavy. It reminds me of I think it was that guy who would cross you over the river Styx if you gave him one coin, and he'd crumpled up in his hand. He had this big, heavy. He was like an old maester, and he would row the. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only guy that remembers that. Yeah.
Okay.
But talking about old maesters, let's bring in Rich Van Winkle and Lindiana Jones.
Hey.
What's up, guys?
Good.
How are
you?
I'm excited to have Brad on today. I know, Rich is a big fan. Doug, you remember, I guess it's been a little over a year ago, we met up with Brad down at Digstock, Virginia. We did a fun little
North Carolina.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, I can't remember who won. It might have been us. I don't recall. But
I think
I do remember Brad had Rich on his team, and he had KK Karen on his team.
Yeah,
and I think it was me, Doug, and Leroy. Did we even score a point?
I think I got a victory nickel, and that was it.
Oh, you got one of those victory nickels?
Yeah.
We're Smokin' Louie. He's the originator of the victory nickel names, I believe.
Oh, there's a super chat.
Oh, that's Eric Thompson. Missed the last two shows. Hope as well. Oh, he's moving back to the Cape now. Eric, I don't like to give away his location, Doug, but he's been inviting us to go hunt with him in an incredible area. We haven't been able to make it. If he's moving back, I'm excited that we might be able to join him this winter.
Tell everybody it's Cape Fear.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what it is. But
May.
Great guy, and I'm sure that we're going to get together this year and do something with him. Now, normally you would see a fourth square where I would bring in the fourth member of the team, Charlie, the heritage relic hunter. He's actually out west celebrating his birthday. Doug, did you see Charlie had a birthday this week? He turned the big 77.
Acknowledged it. He's 77?
77. Happy birthday to Charlie. Yeah, he went out west. He's actually out west visiting one of our moderators, Teresa, the treasure hunter. So it just goes to show if you get picked to moderate on the quarter after show, one of us will come out and vacation at your house.
Yes.
John.
John Dennison. John Dennison. Oh, my goodness. John, come on, brother.
Tonneson.
Yeah, Tonneson. I'm sorry. He's from overseas, right? Like Norway or something?
Oh, Norway.
He's from Norway or somewhere up in that area.
John, thank you. Doug, pizza's on me this weekend. Pizza's on me. Oh, you won't be there. Just me and Rich are going to eat it.
Could I just say something about Charlie?
Sure.
Sorry, Rich.
No.
Charlie went out west, somewhere Wyoming, Utah, or all of those states, to celebrate his birthday. And I'm a little annoyed that somebody would go to those lengths to keep me from getting a piece of cake. I don't get it.
I love how Doug's jokes, there's like a real long wind up, then he stops. It's like a ball. Yeah. Then he starts to wind up again, and then he throws it, and it's always a ball.
Yeah. The only thing there isn't in one of my jokes is a laugh at the end.
Right. It always like you work so hard on everything but the punchline.
It's just not that funny.
Well, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate your input.
That's why Doug is best to be seen, and I usually mute out any dialogue that Doug has, Lynn.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to say anything to be funny.
No. Doug is the muse of the
what's
channel.
That supposed to mean?
When you look at Doug, you automatically smile. He puts everybody in a good mood, and he makes the day with just his presence.
Yes.
When he talks, he kind of brings everything to a halt.
Brings it all down.
The whole thing.
Grinding halt.
But no, we're going to have Brad on. We're going to be talking about Doug. I rewatched the Grave of Gold movie, of course, that Brad made. He wrote it, he directed it, he acted in it, he edited it, and he wrote the music. He did everything for it. I mean, for someone who, I don't want to say just a YouTuber, but someone who didn't go to school for that, if he did, I'll find out. I thought he did a tremendous job. I rewatched it this week, and during halfway through episode 1, my wife walked in, and I didn't tell her what I was doing. And she, just sits down and watches a little bit of it, wound up watching the entire thing. So, and then I let the cat out of the bag of, who he is, why I'm watching it, yada, yada. So
now, did I hear correctly that that's going to be at the Tribeca Film Festival?
I hope he does. I hope he does submit it to some things like that. I thought it was really good for someone who didn't really have a lot of experience. I'm sure he learned a lot from it. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, you just anybody out there, envision you trying to make that, trying to write something, have all your friends act in it, try to film it, try to edit it, write the score, that's an incredible passion. And to be able to bring that to fruition at any level is an accomplishment. And I thought it was done really, really well.
If you have people asking you if it's real, then you've done a good job.
Rich, listen, I make no qualms that I'm a big masculine man. During the last episode, when Eddie was in the cabin, I was watching it like this, Rich, and I knew what was going to happen. I saw it before. I'm like this. I'm like, oh, Eddie, the guy's got a knife. I don't want to ruin it for anybody out there if you didn't see it. When Brad comes on in about 5 minutes, I'm going to have, we'll talk about it. He'll give some extra insight in it. Like, I try to think like, man, if I was going to write a movie and I had to go ask my friends and be like, yo, man, listen, I'm making a movie. I need you to follow me out in the woods for a couple of days. My friends ain't going.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of trust. And I'm sure he's been like, look, Eddie, today's scene, we're going way out in the woods and I have to hug you and be happy to see it. Like all Eddie hears is, I need to hug you in the woods. Eddie's like, yeah, Brad. And Eddie, I thought was one of my favorite parts. I mean, for a guy who it wasn't his idea or his, it was all Brad's creation. But Eddie was a believable actor. I really enjoyed it. We're going to ask Brad all about it because I thought the whole thing was fantastic.
Accolades from you is very rare.
Well, because I try to think like I said, I think of it from a YouTuber. Like if I had to make that, like how much work has to go into this? And I'm just counting the hours,
I know how you denigrate my acting skills. So
sometimes if Doug messes up and I say, Doug, we have to re-record that. I mean, it just gets worse and worse each take. And I wound up using the first take. You know what I mean? It's not easy to do. It's it's a real skill. So I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say happy birthday to Charlie. Like I said, I got him in. Oh, another super sticker, Pacific Northwest Diggers. Thank you. I wonder where they're from, Doug.
Probably the Pacific Northwest.
No,
I
I was
would
like,
guess.
Charlie's actually out that way. I don't know. I think he's in
Yeah.
Wyoming, which is probably southwest.
He posted a picture online of himself in front of Mount Rushmore.
Oh, he told me he was going to see that today. I've never
Yeah.
been, Doug. I've never been.
He was posing for his sculpture being put up
He's
there.
going to be the
Oh, yeah.
fifth head when
He's
one of
gonna
them
be the
slides
fifth,
down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's about as old as those guys.
Well, he's as old as those rocks that they're carved into. So,
Yeah, but he's a
Wow.
good one. Doug, I'm excited. We got 3 minutes until Brad comes in case anyone tuned in and they're like, wait, where's Brad? And the whole thing was a ruse. No, he is coming in, I promise.
That was a teaser just to get everybody to watch.
I'm going to do that on every show from now on. I'm going to
Yeah,
do the
yeah,
intro
Brad.
and say, hey, Brad's
Yeah.
going to pop out from behind a tree in 10 minutes.
I haven't seen.
I'll get him to stick around longer.
Yeah, he's still out in the woods, isn't he?
He might be in the woods.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, Doug, when I texted him to ask him to come on the show, he was in the woods that day, you know, got back to me, told me that he had a great day, but I didn't even think he got reception up in the, maybe you do. I guess there's cell towers up in the mountains of Vermont.
They had to climb a tree or something.
Maybe he did, but he climbed a tree, got back to me, said he was coming on. So very grateful. I know he's a busy guy. He's probably writing the next super novel.
You know, that area is still in the United States. So,
when we drove through, it doesn't look like anything even when we drove through, when we went to like upstate New York, all you see is mountains and trees in every direction for hundreds of miles.
That's the way
I can see how easy it would be to get lost, or, I mean, like Eddie did in the movie. It's not like around here where every quarter mile in any direction, there's a convenience store and a Slurpee machine.
The Dollar General.
Dollar Generals. And
oh my God, yes.
You know, around Doug's house is a brothel on every corner. Brothel.
I keep them all in business.
That's where Doug uses all his clad he finds. All his clad.
Oh my
Where it
God.
goes.
Yeah.
I just saw a funny joke, Doug. I was going to use it on you later. Where I was going to say that, you know, Doug told me that all the clad he finds, Lynn, he donates half of it to charity. Unless she's off that day, then he gives it to Daphne.
There you go.
I don't know where I heard. I didn't write that joke. I heard it somewhere.
It's hard to keep those clad quarters in the strings.
That's too far, Doug.
Oh, is it? Oh.
All right, but we're going to get ready to bring in Brad. Now, Lynn, I know you and Rich have been watching Brad a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Doug has also watched every week. I mean, as busy as we get, Brad's videos are one of the few that get queued up every single week. Not only does he find good things, but I love watching the cinematography. Like I said, the music score. The guy does everything himself. I've got so much respect for him. I can't put it in words. You know, from one YouTuber to another, not only is finding the stuff difficult, but making it a watchable experience every single week, week in, week out for years. I know how hard it is, and he does, a tremendous job, better than I do as far as the quality of it goes.
It's an art.
So I'm going to bring him in. I'm super excited to have him, everybody. Green Mountain metal detecting himself, Brad Martin. There he is.
Man, what an intro. Thank you.
Doug,
Very kind.
Brad pleaded with me earlier today. He said, Jay, can you please introduce me as the strikingly handsome Brad Martin? And I said, look, I just feel really uncomfortable, Brad. Can I just...
Sorry I made you do that.
Can I just leave the adjectives? Brad, thank you very much for
thank you for having me
and coming out.
I've been waiting. You said in the first one, you're like, we're going to have Brad on soon. And it's been months and months.
I wanted to make sure I got the gist of this down. I mean, this set is held together with shoestrings and bubblegum, Brad.
I'm happy to be here.
Ask the viewers. We've had a show where my microphone went out. We had a show where I started the show and it was so funny and I forgot to hit the start stream button. So it was just the four of us.
I did that last time on our last one.
I mean, just dreadful. So now I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable. So now I'm starting to bring on some guests because I hate for you to like say something really interesting and nobody heard it.
Yeah, I saw the legend on a couple weeks ago. Bo.
Oh yeah, I had Bo
cool
on,
guy.
which was really exciting. Now Brad, I like to say we're pretty good friends. I've known Brad. Yes. I text Brad occasionally. Like we're pretty friendly. But Bo, I didn't know from Adam. I've never spoken to him before. I met him once for a hot minute at a show, and he probably
Yeah.
doesn't remember me. And I just said, "Hey, Bo, I got this silly little YouTube channel. I do a live show. Do you want to come on?" Incredibly gracious, came on, fun guy, spent an hour with us. So yeah, I got really excited. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm shooting
Like I
for
said,
the
he's a
stars.
legend.
Brad, Aqua Chigger. Next week, Doug, I didn't announce it yet. Former President Barack Obama, right here on the Quarter After
All
Show.
right.
Wow.
Yeah, right here.
I
Wow.
know he was tied up this week.
So no, he hasn't gotten back to me yet. I'm working on it though. Working on it. But Brad, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm excellent. Thank you for asking. Well, I had a great week. I was able to get out twice. I have winter coming up.
Fantastic.
I have winter coming up, so I have to start like stockpiling,
That was one of the questions I
yeah.
had for you. I mean, I guess I'll jump into it a little bit. Is, I know that up in the mountains of Vermont, you guys get snow early and heavy, and it lasts for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do you have stockpiled footage? I know you do the vlogs to kind of keep people, keep it on track. It's got to be hard to get out extra times to find even more videos.
Yeah, and I've somewhat turned this like YouTube thing into a job. So like I have a couple other little things I do on the side, but it takes up the bulk of my time. And you would think I'd be able to go metal detecting more than one day a week, but it is like so hard with the planning and then the editing and all of the things that go into making a YouTube video to get out more than once. And I'm not saying I'm getting older, but like my knees are starting to hurt. Like sometimes I don't feel like going 2 days in a week,
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
But no, I had a good week this week, a couple good videos, I think. And I don't have a very big stockpile for winter as of right now. I think I have like 3 videos on deck, which I know you usually have like a bunch, don't you?
I probably have about 14 at the moment, but that's
I have some.
We had a tremendous summer.
That's wild.
Yeah. Now, Brad, not many people do I extend this to, but in the winter, if you are hurting for a day, it doesn't freeze down here.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come down
Anymore.
any weekend you want and join us. I mean, it's probably a 4-hour ride or so, but you're always welcome.
You say the word, I'll be there.
You're always welcome. You can stay right at Doug's house on the floor.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to Bo. I was talking to Bo, and it was like, it might have been March or maybe April. And he's like, "Hey, I'm driving through on my way to Maine. Like, you want to like try to get together a day and make a video together?" I'm like, "Bo, we have like a foot of snow here." I'm sorry, I would, but like,
oh, he didn't even realize.
Well, I guess they go into the coast of Maine and they were pretty thawed out there, but yeah, up where I am, we had we were snowed in.
No, that's tough. I mean, I know one of Karen, who hunted with you on that team dig we did, is also from Vermont. I don't know if she's in as mountainous area as you are, but it's tough. Talking about dig stock, Doug, did you know, and I know Brad mentioned on his channel, day 2 of dig stock, Brad wound up getting COVID and he had to leave and drive. What was that drive from North Carolina to Vermont?
It depends on how early you leave, but on the way home, it was like, I think it was 13 hours.
And you were sick as a dog too, right?
It was probably the most sick I've ever felt in my entire life. And like I had like I must have infected the entire East Coast. I stopped at every rest stop and bought, like Tylenol and everything I could find. And because I didn't know it was COVID, I didn't have a test on me, but educated guess. That was a brutal trip.
I heard about it. I felt so bad for him. And when he got home, even when he got home, I think there was snow on the ground up at your house. So not only 13 hours sick as a dog, but treacherous driving.
That's a long drive healthy.
Well, 2 days after I got home, we had a snowstorm and the power went out for like a week.
For a whole week, really?
Well, it was like 4 days. Yeah. And then I had COVID and it was awful.
Did your wife make you quarantine, or did she at least bring you soup?
No, I had to. It was a fiasco. Our generator broke, so I had to go to Home Depot with COVID and buy a new generator.
Oh, you were still husband.
Oh yeah,
you were.
I was trying to snow blow, and
You can get sick next week. You can.
Yeah.
What's funny is we were hanging out in North Carolina. We were playing the game. You and I were teamed up, and not that we were super close, but I didn't get sick.
Yeah. Well, I went to not to make this a COVID dig stock story, but I went to like a get together
Oh yeah.
the night of the meet and greet, right?
Several people.
And a bunch of, like, Bo was there. He got COVID also. A bunch of us did.
Oh.
And the next day, which was the first day, which was the day I was with you guys, I felt great, you know, and we were all together. And then it was the next morning at like 3 a.m. I got out of bed and I was like to leave to come home. And I was like dizzy, like I had vertigo. I was like, what is going on? Because I had a family emergency too, so I was leaving to come home.
I remember
anyway.
you had an emergency.
Yeah.
It was just a whole cavalcade of.
It was awful.
Awful.
But made it through it. All for the better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad you made it. You know, before the dig stock, you know, Brad had called me up and said, "Hey, you know, I'm going down, you're going down. You want to do something together?" And I was like, "I'd love to." And he said, "Well, I got Saturday or Sunday. Let me know." And then Sunday, he was going to do something with, I think, Brandon from Adventure Archaeology. Thank goodness I picked Saturday.
That's right.
If I picked Sunday, like that was my whole plan, was to kind of get together and do something with Brad. So.
Well, I'm a very much a homebody, so I was already like in my
Same.
pajamas, and the guy was like, "Hey, you want to come over?" And it was like 10 o'clock. I was like, "Man, do I want to?" I just drove all 12 hours. I'm like, "Do I want to get back in my car?" I'm like, I should have just stayed in the hotel, and I would have been able to stay all week or all weekend. It would have been great.
Yeah, but you would have been sick as a dog. You wouldn't have wanted to go.
I wouldn't have gotten it if I didn't go.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we didn't go and we didn't get it.
Right.
No, I didn't. But we didn't go to that meet and greet though, which is, you know, we might have got lucky and dodged that bullet there.
Yeah.
So Brad, for the YouTube videos, now you obviously film them in a much different way than we do, where I got 4 people that I can kind of lean on for help.
Right.
So when you have to go out into these woods, climbing a mountain, I mean, you know, you probably have to be in tremendous shape, or if you bring a quad or whatnot, but you have to film everything. You use multi cameras every time. I'm curious as an insider, like, do you do it all in one shot? Do you find the thing and then have to get the B-roll after? Like if you dug a good coin, give me a walkthrough of what the setup is of how you would record that, so people out there maybe can learn if they're trying to do their own video creation.
Sure. So it depends on how good the day is, right? So one of the days this week, it was a very slow day, and it took me all day to find. I tried to find like 9 things that I can like sit down in front of the camera and talk about that are interesting, right? Yeah. I try for 9 things. Sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 7, but I shoot for 9. If I'm like at 7 at like noontime, I'm like, all right, we got to keep going so that I can finish this out, you know? And so like this last week, it was a rough day. It took me all day. And so like I saved capturing all the B-roll and stuff until the end, because I want to make sure I find enough stuff, because that's what people are watching for, is the stuff, right? And hopefully, you know, I'm not gonna ruin the secrets of the video for anybody, but sometimes I actually fill the intro of the video at the end.
We do the same.
Okay. So I like save all of that kind of, obviously the wrap up, but like the intro of the video and everything, I save all that to the end, usually the B-roll to the end of the day, just to ensure that I find enough stuff, right? So like I'm walking around with my metal detector and I get like a good target. I've started carrying a GoPro on because, and hopefully, I don't know, I'm a little sensitive with the comments. I read all the comments. I don't respond to all the comments, but like I was getting a bunch that were like fake, right? I'm sure you get them too.
I get them too. I ignore them also.
Yeah, but they were bothering me a little bit. And I would, in my videos, like the camera would turn on and the thing would already be found, right? And I would show the camera. It's very much like, hey, look what I found type of video, right? So I was like, I'm going to buy a GoPro and try to film every single target, which on the GoPro, you just push a button and the camera turns on.
Or voice activate.
Right, exactly. So it makes it very, very easy. So turn the camera on, I get a good target, I dig it up, and it's a coin. I have 2 cameras I have 3 cameras. I have 2 other cameras that I carry with me. One of them is pointing at my face, and then the other one is pointing at the hole, so I can take things out of the hole and show the camera. I used to do it just with 1 camera, but when I went to France, I was with Chill Bill, and he filmed a bunch and he sent me footage, and like he showed like he had the footage of me, you know, from like a third person, and then I also had my footage and I was able to edit it together. And I was like, wow, this is great. Like I can have two different
it does
camera
look
angles.
fantastic. I love that about the quality of it. But go on.
Right. Having two different camera angles flipping back and forth.
Right.
So yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna start carrying two cameras. And I like the way it looks personally. I feel like the more things that are changing on screen, the better, short attention span,
different perspective too.
Right. So I have those 3 camera angles that I am able to edit in the computer, and it makes like taking out all of my uhs and ums way easier because you can switch to a different camera angle and cut all that stuff out. Makes it look like I have a much better camera presence than I actually do.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to, like I said, find 7 or 9 things like that, and if I am able to, then I have a video. Sometimes I'll have to like go back, or maybe sometimes even a different place, and try to like fill out like a couple extra things to get a full video. But if anybody's ever noticed, I wear the exact same clothes in every single video.
I asked Doug to do that. I wear the same outfit everywhere I go for that reason. Yeah. And Rich
have such an extensive wardrobe.
Doug,
I've got to give them all a shot.
Yeah, I said, come on, Doug, at least wear the same hat. Then I could, I can pull, but
I always have to ask Jason when he says wear the same clothes. I have to say, what was I wearing?
I'll send screenshots to all the guys of what they were wearing, because
it's tough when you've got that many people. Scenes. Yeah.
And what I noticed about yours, Brad, which I'm curious myself how you do it, is I noticed Brad posts now a lot of YouTube shorts or Facebook reels, the things that are filmed in portrait mode. And YouTube obviously is filmed in landscape mode. Now, you can usually tell a YouTuber when they film, everything is in landscape mode. So when they put it on like a TikTok reel or something like that, they just kind of stretch it out to fill that space. And you can see that it's stretched out like silly putty.
Right.
But a lot of yours don't look that way, Brad. So I'm wondering, do you film it at such a distance back in a wider camera angle that you can crop to where you want? Or is one of your cameras when you film at a different orientation? How are you managing to do that?
No, I film everything. So for like the camera files out there, I film everything in just like 1080, 30.
Not even 4K?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, because like I have 3 cameras running sometimes, and like thinking about the storage of all of that footage, like I would have to have so many hard drives, huge capacity hard drives to store all that stuff. So I just do 1080, and it's like with like a camera like this, the background being blurry and stuff, like it looks nice and crisp. It doesn't have to
look good.
Like people don't need to see all the pores in my nose in 4K,
Yeah.
So I film in 1080, so I can't really stretch anything, or I can't really zoom in without it getting kind of pixelated, right? So what I basically do is I just crop the edges of the horizontal off, and then I make it a little bit smaller, and then at the top and the bottom it's all blurred out, which is just like the image moved
to just
and
give it more height.
To give it more height, yeah. And then in my editing software, which I use Final Cut, I can kind of track left and right to follow where the action is. And that's, sometimes it doesn't work out, but I try.
It looks really good because, I look for that when I watch, YouTubers like TikToks or shorts. I can tell that they were stretched it. And mine, I try to do very careful to not make it look stretched. And same thing, every frame, I might have to move it left and right.
Right.
Yours looked really crisp, like almost like it was filmed in that orientation.
Thanks. So, I think the camera has a lot to do with it. The more bokeh behind me here, like you have, I feel like the more professional it kind of looks, just to my eye at least. And I feel like you can kind of do more with the video because like YouTube compression, if there's like too much detail, things can kind of get pixelated and it kind of looks cheap. So I think the camera has a lot to do with how, and I carry around this big stupid camera. Like this is like what I use to film.
Yeah.
And I have this hanging off my belt.
I've seen them. You have special clips, and even the thought you put into carrying everything and where it's dangling off of your frame, and everything is usually tripod mounted too, which makes a huge difference. If it's handheld, it's really hard because everyone's hand's a little shaky. He actually takes the time to set the cameras up on a tripod. Everything is still. You can see. It's really well thought out, and it really shows, Brad.
Yeah, you know, I almost every trip out, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is like there comes to a point where it's diminishing return. I could just be filming this on my phone and it would be just fine for a YouTube metal detecting video, right? But like I'm trying to make things I'm going to be proud of like 10 years from now. I know there's like this thing with YouTubers where anything that you made 6 months ago, you watch it, you typically cringe like, man,
I do.
Yeah, right. I'm trying as hard as I can to like not have that happen. And like I can go back and watch something. I still do, you know, still cringe at the things I made 6 months ago, but I'm trying as hard as I can to make things I can be proud of in the future. And for some reason, I feel like multiple camera angles and
it looks great. And I mean, the time, like I said, I mean, I know how he does it. I've tried it before. I guess you sync it up with the audio track and then you can just cut back and forth. Is that how you do it?
The camera angles, Final Cut does it automatically. You just like select all of the different files and you hit multicam, and then I can just hit 1, 2, 3, 4 on my keypad and it switches between the different.
But I'm saying it must sync the audio track.
That's what I mean. I think it uses the audio. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's now as a YouTuber, Brad, and I know I do this myself, and I never really mentioned it before, but do you have pressure that you put on yourself to not only make sure your video is out on time because people are expecting it. It's part of their life now. But do you feel that pressure of, not only do I have to put one out every week, but the quality's got to be there. The music's got to be there. Like, do you create all this stress on yourself? Or maybe stress isn't the right word, but do you put yourself, the quality of your work out on the level that's really high, that now you feel compelled that, I got to spend 6 hours today to work on this, on 100%. That. You don't want to let someone else down or let yourself down.
100%. Yeah. The kind of the deadline that I just happened to create for, like a lot of us have just created for ourselves of posting one a week, is totally arbitrary. Like we don't need to do that really, but I've kind of set this precedent now where I feel like if I don't post one on Friday morning, like everybody's going to leave or something, which I know won't happen. But there is like, there's stress, there's pressure, like, especially if I'm getting down, this has probably never happened to you, but if I'm getting down to like one video on deck, like I know coming up, I have 3 on deck right now, and I have a vacation coming up, and there's going to be a week where I'm not going to be able to go. I'm like, man, I need to get a video done this week, or else I'm not going to have one coming up 3 weeks down the road. And there's like, and if you don't find anything, like, what am I going to do?
That's what I tell Doug. I say, sometimes we'll do a house, Brad. It's built in 1720. It's got 5 acres of grass. Like on paper, it's going to be a home run. And we go out there all day and we find nothing.
Same.
And this is a weird hobby for YouTube because it's not from lack of effort, but sometimes it's just not there. And like I said, I'm luckily in a position now because we've had a good summer of a lot of videos, but I've been that maybe week to week or maybe only one.
Yeah.
And I feel that same stresses. And I think to myself, am I crazy? Like, why am I stressing? I try to think like it's only YouTube, but you do, like, you feel like you've created this community around your channel and people look forward to it every week and you don't want to let them down. So I get it. And you, like I said, the time that it must take you to edit everything and go by yourself. Like you said, you have to find 9 things. When we go out to a house, I tell the guys, look, everyone's got to find 2 things. If you find more than 2, then you're in good shape. You can leave early if you want. Right. Because with 5 of us, 2 things each is 10 things.
Right.
And I'm long-winded. I talk a lot. There's always goofy humor in there. That's a video.
Yeah.
But if I had to go out and find 9 things on my own, wow, that's a lot of things. People don't realize that's a lot of interesting things to try to hope to find.
Well, that's sometimes we're getting towards the end of the day. I can see the end is in sight. I'm like, all right, well, I have footage of myself finding like this suspender clip. Like I've talked about suspender clips I don't have anything else interesting to say about suspender clips, but we're getting to the end of the day here. Right. I'm going to have to sit down and think of something interesting to say about the suspender clip,
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into like, knowing about the place, like making these YouTube videos, there's only so many times you can find thimbles and buttons,
Sure.
and in like large scents, like it's another large scent. Like I know that people on the West Coast, they don't find them. They'd be over the moon to find a large scent, but like guys like you and me, we find them all the time. Like, what is there interesting to say about a large scent? But
other than the date, and look
other
how
than
pretty,
the date, right. But like, if you have the history of the place where you're at, right, it can make these things way more interesting. You can talk about the person that may have held them, like what were they up to, maybe what were they going to buy with this thing, right? And that's knowing the history of the place can make a video way more interesting. And that's something that I've like discovered through this whole YouTube metal detecting thing, is like people care way more about like the story of the place and like where you are and the things that you might find and the stories attached to the things that you find than they are the like the actual thing. It's very much less like, hey, look what I found, and more like, listen to what may have, you know, happened with this thing that we found. I feel like that's way more exciting.
Yeah, I agree. And to give you credit, Brad, I mean, I've seen other channels try to do the history in the background, and it's nice, but I really think your presentation is really that good that people are more perceptive to sit back and maybe get a history lesson.
Sure.
Along with the B-roll that not only you have the foresight to take, but actually incorporate it in, and the original music that you play.
Thank you.
You really, for someone that's going to go out and film metal detecting or any videos by themselves. Now, granted, he has some people that'll go with him occasionally, but for the most part, it's just Brad. Those extra things serve two purposes, really. I mean, A, it's filling in that time in the most interesting way he can because he's by himself. But then through progression and through years of doing it, it gets better and better and better and better.
Thank you.
So, kudos to you, because that's, you've really found a way to turn what could be very difficult, one person to find 9 things. It might not sound like a lot, people, if you go out, but it is.
That can be, yeah.
I mean, you see even Rich, who is my go-to guy for finding things while Doug and I are schmoozing with property owners. I mean, even 9 things for Rich at a home where there's stuff all over the place. That's a big ask, 9 interesting things.
Right.
Yeah. And before I even knew any of you, there were 2 channels on YouTube that I zeroed in on. Would be Quarter Hoarder and Green Mountain.
Come on.
And no, seriously.
And I got stuck with you. Why didn't you go knock on Brad's door?
Because I don't live in Vermont.
Okay.
But what you guys are saying is that's really how important it is, because to find a channel that's always interesting week after week, doesn't skip weeks, doesn't annoy you, makes good quality videos, finds interest. I mean, I love the colonial stuff. That's part of it. Yeah. But it's tough, and it's a lot. Like you said, you put pressure on yourselves, but you're right to do so, because I
think any channel, if they really do care about it, puts that pressure on themselves, because you don't want to let the audience down. And I appreciate it, Rich, when people, will say that they like my channel a lot or put me in the same class as Brad. But I will say, I mean, it's incredibly difficult week in, week out. Brad, as week in and week out as he can, sometimes the weather gobbles him up. But that sort of dedication, I do think people appreciate. It's not like when I first started on the YouTube, there were some channels I watched, and then one day they were just gone. And you're like, I get it. The guy's probably a 9-to-5 job. Caught up. He lost interest. But there's not many channels that have been doing it as long as Brad and I have, as consistently as we have.
Right.
That's a real passion. It's a real love. It's not only love for the hobby, but it's a love of taking what we do and trying in our own unique ways, because my videos are totally different than Brad's, to make them interesting and watchable. And if people say to me like, oh, I'm new to YouTube, can you watch this video? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? I say, I don't have the answers. I mean, look at Brad. Brad's videos and mine, you think we're from different planets, but they both work because we found different ways. So there is no right or wrong way. Find a way that, look at it objectively and say, like, would I watch this? And and each week try to make an improvement over you did the week before.
And I get emails all the time, I'm sure you do too, of new people in the metal detecting hobby wanting to start in the videos, and they're asking advice like, oh, what do I do to like gain a whole bunch of subscribers or gain a whole bunch of views, or like, what do I do? And the thing I always say is like, if you're like into the hobby of metal detecting, right? Like that's something you're passionate about. All you can think about is metal detecting. It's great that you want to like share that with other people. But if you want to like make videos, like that has to be a second hobby that is of equal passion. And because if you are just making videos to share with your friends and family, that's great. But if you wanted to like to build something, like you have to also be very, very passionate about like editing and sitting down and doing the work of figuring out how to do those things and actually enjoying the process of filming on the field and then filming, doing this stuff in your computer, because like you can get very burnt out very quickly with the video making thing if you're not into it.
Yeah, I know. You're right. You know what? As much as I might complain to Doug, that I spent 20 hours this week editing the video, I do love the process. I mean, It's so rewarding when it's finished, but it is stressful knowing the hours that are going to have to go into every little thing. It is. It's a fun process. You do have to love it. And Brad obviously loves it. When you first started YouTube, Brad, I went back and watched your first video that you have, at least on YouTube this week.
Yeah, right.
All the
I'm constantly deleting the old ones.
You know what, though? It was still better than most other ones I see, because at least you were on a tripod, which is very important. If you don't have a good, steady hand, it wasn't herky-jerky, which is really nice.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, it was not. It was filmed well, for a first timer.
Thank you.
Did you have any video editing skills or anything, or did you have to learn from day one what you were doing, like I had to do?
Yeah. Well, I went to school for music, and I was focusing on audio production. So I had an internship at a recording studio. So I was in the recording studio world. I was working with musicians. We did some like voiceover stuff. So like I got to work with some like A-list actors doing like overdubs for movies. So I was like, there was no cameras in the room, but I was kind of like doing video stuff on the computer with that. I wasn't editing the video. I was doing the audio for it, but never holding a camera or talking into a camera or anything. Like I took some theater classes in school and stuff, but like nothing I enjoyed really at all. But then like me and Eddie, very, very early on, if folks who aren't familiar with me, Eddie's just a friend of mine that was in a lot of the early videos. He and I picked up this metal detecting thing, and we had like a ton of success on our very, very first trip, a very first permission. Like we found like 3 or 4 silver dollars. I found this giant Russian ruble from the 1800s. And we're like, this is amazing. Like, this is so easy. Why doesn't everybody do this? And we're like, we have to bring cameras. So like, cause nobody's going to believe this. And it was never like that again, of course. But like, we bought these like $17 cameras on eBay, and we both had one. And we were just doing this with them, this was like before our phones could take nice crisp video, and I was like editing an iMovie, and it was just, we weren't like looking into the camera and talking to it. We were just, look what I found, look what I found, look what I found, which is fine to do. But over the years, I started like looking into the camera and trying to talk to it, and it was awful. And then
its own practice, being comfortable.
Right. Yeah. It takes a while to like talk to the camera like you're talking to like another person. Because so we did this show, right? This Grave of Gold show, and we just had all of our friends be actors in it. And like the camera would turn on, and they would act like not themselves at all. I'm like, no, just don't forget that it's there. Just like you're talking to me like a normal person. And turn the camera on. It's like if something happens when the camera turns on, people tend to like act differently, and I was doing that like very, very early on, and just like you could watch it and be like, man, that's like the cringe I was talking about. You watch it like, whoa, what am I doing?
I guess me not knowing your anxiety level,
right,
I can't pick up on that, because a lot of your videos are self-narration, walking you through the story or the find.
Sure.
So you're in front of the camera a lot. And I could see now, compared to like years ago, your comfort level, either you're a good actor or you've just become accustomed to it, because that's a lot of the vibe of your video. You walking the person through it, and then constantly cutting to, your B-roll sometimes is your A-roll. It's hard to tell what's the B-roll. It incorporates together so well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to like make, as pretentious as it sounds, I'm just trying to make something as artistic as I can.
Yeah, for sure.
Metal detecting video, as silly as it sounds. It's just everything I do, I try to do it as best as I can. And
what's funny is I remember you were on a show. I don't remember what show it was on, but I was watching, and you told the host, it may have been Ken King.
Yeah.
You said something like, my whole life I've had a way of turning my hobbies into a job. And I thought, man, that's kind of cool, because I kind of always done that too. Maybe not a job I'm going to like retire from, but if I'm into it, I manage to bring other people in.
100%.
It becomes so over, consuming to me. And you must do the same thing. I mean, with your music career, which still carries into your metal detecting.
Yeah, I taught guitar private in a music school and private lessons for about a decade. And then it got to a point where like, man, I don't want to play guitar anymore. It's like, I turned it into something that it became a job, and I went to work to play guitar, and I didn't want to play guitar at home anymore. It became like I go over to my family's house, like, oh, play something. I'm like, no, I got the day off. It's like, I don't want to do that.
So you really burnt out.
Yeah, I really got burnt out. And I just do it now for the videos. Me and my buddy Chris are like working on an album right now. But other than that, like I burnt myself out, and I haven't got burnt out with metal detecting yet, but I am feeling, like we talked about, the stress of trying to hit a deadline. And but I still, I don't think I'll get burnt out on that. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know. I said before, like you with the guitar, I had a different hobby for years, and all consuming, like metal detecting is for me now, for about 10, 11 years. And then one day I woke up and just said, I don't want to do it anymore. And I've never done it since.
Really?
So
wow.
It's as strange as it sounds, where like, I can't see me like waking up tomorrow and saying, I'm never metal detecting again, but it can happen. You don't know. You find different interests in life. And not that I want Brad to go away, but whatever he went to next, I'm sure he would take the aspects of everything he did and make that thing incredible. Right.
So I have a question, Brad.
Yes.
About the series you filmed.
Yes.
The library scenes. Now you said you got friends to act in this.
Dewey. Dewey was the librarian, I believe.
Did you know the person in the library? And if you did,
Dewey was his name, I think.
Dewey Decimal.
Yeah, that's where I think he got it from.
Access to film in there.
Yeah.
And,
So, so I knew the library, the director of the library, and I was like, hey, so I'm like, we're filming. So everybody I talked to, I had to preface this, was like, so I have this YouTube show thing, right? Like I metal detect, right? And they're like, okay. And I'm like, so we're filming this fictional show. Like, can I just film in the library for like a few hours? And she's like, yeah, sure, like no problem. And she like gave us keys, and we just went to the library after hours. Wow. And Dewey is just a friend of mine. I played in bands with him. He was in some metal detecting videos early on. I don't think they're up anymore because they were so bad. I took them down. But he's just a friend of mine, and he doesn't normally dress like that. I was like, yeah. He's like, what should I dress like? I'm like, I don't know, a librarian. Yeah. And so he came in with like all dressed up, and he had his glasses on. I don't even know if he wears glasses. He's like, do I have a name? He like got really into it. Like, do I have a name? I was like, not really. We're just going to be a librarian. Can I be Dewey? Sure.
I didn't even think about that till Doug said it. Was he named after the Dewey Decimal System?
That was a joke. Yeah.
Son of a gun, Doug. Look at you being smart.
Hey.
Yeah.
He to another.
He actually brought his own book that was like in the mind of like a serial killer, and he had to like open like reading it. That was all him. He really took the role and ran with it, Yeah. But like all of our friends, we had act in this fictional series. And it was a very hard ask to be like, hey, so yeah, we're making this thing. Can you act? And everybody's like, no. I'm like, that's okay. Neither can we. Will you please act show for us? But we had everybody kind of like in mind who was going to play each role. Like the big climax of the show, the guy that played that role, he's my best friend. He's 6'9". He's a huge guy. Yeah. And because the guy historically was a very big guy. So we're like, this is perfect. So
he did a good job. The woman ranger.
Yep. That's just one of Eddie's friends, Sydney.
Really? Yeah, I mean, I
Yep.
thought there was people who had no acting ability. I'm not going to show the whole video, Rich, but I do have a. Let me see
Ooh,
if
we have something queued up.
well, I mean, I just have the. Let me see if I can move it to the side, Brad. Let's see. I'll put this over there. This was the spoiler. Now the whole video is on Brad's YouTube page. Obviously, he probably have a playlist of the Grave of Gold.
Yeah.
Now, Brad also has his GMMD.us website, which I had a couple of pictures of here. Whoa. Here. If you guys haven't seen it, Brad's GMMD.us website that I'm guessing you probably host and run yourself, Brad.
Yeah.
They have a lot of links on there to all his YouTube videos, pictures of his latest treasures, his store where you can get all your Green Mountain merch, hats, and even some of his original soundtracks he sells on there, I think through SoundCloud and whatnot. They're his notable finds. I'm just kind of running through some of the things on there. Some of the leather work that Brad does, that's got to take a lot of time. Are you still able to do that? Or is that like, when am I going to make this thing?
I always appreciate when people buy leather stuff in the wintertime. In the summertime, it takes me like a couple weeks sometimes to get something together, but I still love doing it. Making anything with my hands like that is something I love
so
to do.
stock up in the winter when it's snowy up in Vermont. The
Right.
leather holsters, the leather wallets, the keychains with the little GMMD mountain logo at the bottom. You used to make the little speakers, Brad, in the bullets. Do you still make those?
Microphones. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's like that was coming out of the recording studio thing. I like started making my own mics, and then somehow they ended up inside shotgun shells, and then somehow that got on the internet and it like became a business. So I still make the microphones for studios, but like it used to be 7 days a week. I was down in my workshop making those, and I've like stopped advertising as of like 4 years ago. And so now it's down to just word of mouth, like 2 days a week, making those microphones all day. And then the rest of the week is like, planning and editing and filming metal detecting videos. And if YouTube ever just like self-destructs, then I can just kind of fan those embers and hopefully build that business back up to be full-time again. But that's like, was my job and will probably be like a retirement job once don't feel like going metal detecting anymore.
Yeah, it's probably still a passion though. Like you said,
for sure.
The leather work. Rich is a blacksmith. Probably more of a passion than a career, but
right.
It's not something you can fall back on. Yeah, so
right.
like I said, you never know what's gonna happen. But yeah, the rust sacks also, which is on the site, which the big hiking backpacks that Brad has. Do you make those, Brad?
Yeah.
Oh, so you make
Those
the
are
whole
awesome.
pack?
I make it from scratch. Like right here, I have a industrial sewing machine.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, there you go. They're sold out now, but come the winter, they might be back in.
I have a couple in stock. I just haven't listed them.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, all the shirts. Now, I was looking. I saw the Perry's Place shirts and the Vault of the Growl shirts. I didn't see any Grave of Gold merch up there, Brad.
Well, the Perry Place is Grave of Gold.
I meant one that actually says Grave of Gold,
you're right.
with the triangle or something.
Well, we got the triangle hoodies. Yeah. I should make some just straight Grave of Gold.
I like that. I just think it's a cool name.
Thank you.
Is that for Steve Perry by any chance?
Yeah, from Journey. Yeah, Brad's going to do a video with him.
Yep.
Did you see the little Filipino guy, Doug, that now sings for Journey? Sounds just like Steve Perry.
I saw him on either America Has Talent or.
No, I don't think you saw him there, Doug. The guy's been the lead singer of Journey for like 15 years now.
Oh, okay.
You're just confusing your Filipinos.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the Late Show with on Channel 6.
Yeah, exactly. Brad, this is why Doug doesn't get a lot of talking parts.
That's right.
But all of the music on Brad's channel is also available on, I guess it's on his website. I guess it links to like his SoundCloud or something. Everything you hear, made, written, played, produced, all by Brad.
Wow. Impressive.
Thank you.
Well, I said the guy is, look at that. That's a good shot.
He's not just a pretty face.
Well, he's getting used to it. In the few pictures I had queued up, and I played them out of order because that's how unprofessional I am, Doug. I was going to ask him about, I like to do the one token, what was your favorite find? Because everyone has a favorite find. Now, I put a picture of my favorite find, which you probably already saw. My favorite find of Brad's. But Brad, do you have a favorite find that you've found your entire year, even if it's not the most valuable or just something that brings you the most joy when you think about it?
I think that I think it always depends like what my mood is, because like I think the thing that you had queued up is probably like all-time favorite just because
Yeah.
of the story and like how, I mean, people don't find stuff like that. Like how incredible. But like I found that gold nugget, which is wild. Like
Yeah.
people don't
It's a
find those
lifetime
either.
movie.
Like that's pretty wild. Like my little gold coin I love. Like I have a really nice Vermont copper that I found that I love. Like the
They're hard
native
to find, the
stuff.
Vermont coppers.
Yeah. Like I have 4 or 5 of them, but only one of them is like you can like really see all the details on it and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends on what my mood is, Like I found a piece of a guitar last week. Like I've never found a piece of a stringed instrument before.
What piece of the guitar did you find?
So it's like
if the video
yeah,
didn't come out, you don't have to.
I'm not going to spoil anything but
Yeah,
it's
okay.
it's in tomorrow's video. It's like the tailpiece of an old like boutique kind of like parlor size guitar where the strings would come out of this metal piece. Yeah, no, it's like it always changes. Whatever my mood happens to be, what my favorite find is. But that pendant, I think, is what I saw.
Now
Right?
I'll put a picture of it up, Doug, only
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I noticed to the side. I'll just put it full screen, Doug. But this was the pendant that he found, which is all sterling, and I think Brad even does like an anniversary plug every year on May 5th, the birth date of Anna. But what an amazing Pete, hand etched design on the back. The little girl's name when she was born from the 1700s. When I saw that, I fell in love. I thought that was an amazing, amazing find.
Yeah.
And Brad, of course, made a big deal out of it because we would make a big deal out of it.
Sure.
That was my favorite thing. And as much as like, I've never been fortunate enough to find a gold nugget or a gold coin for that matter, which would be tremendous. But in my mind, this is one of a kind where maybe I'd find a second gold coin eventually. This
sure.
is iconic. This was
That's
just
that's a piece of folk art when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's, like you say, it's one of a kind. Nobody else has got one of those.
No. So that was my favorite one in all the videos I've seen of yours. But as the finder, I'm sure it's still super special to Brad.
Oh, yeah.
But I get what he's saying. Like sometimes my favorite find changes from week to week too. I have some that are always special to me, but maybe I found something new and that's got my heart for the week,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I'm sure you guys get this too. Somebody doesn't know anything about metal detecting. They ask you like what's the coolest thing you ever found? And it's like it always depends on like what they think is cool, right? Like, oh, you say like, oh yeah, I found like this Jesuit ring from the 1620s that was traded to the Native Americans, and they're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I'm like, that's like the coolest thing ever you could find. Like, what do you mean? Like, just interesting. Like, oh, you ever found any old coins or anything? I'm like, oh yeah.
If you don't know about metal detecting, they often go to the monetary value.
Right.
Like when they say the coolest thing, they want to know what's it worth.
What's the value?
And I have to explain a lot. Like, I don't know what a lot of the stuff is worth because when you do it, you realize pretty quickly that what it's worth is almost not even important anymore.
Sure.
Now, when I first started, and maybe you were the same, before I even started doing videos, that was my goal. Let's find valuable stuff. I told my wife when I bought my first expensive metal detector, I said, hon, it'll pay for itself when I find that second gold ring. And it took me 10 years to find 2 gold rings, Brad. It's not easy to do. But you quickly, I'd rather find a cool relic than a gold ring now, or like you said, all the large cents we find, man, I would trade them for a shoe buckle any day of the week or something more story related.
Yeah.
So it changes. Your perception changes as you do it, where it quickly becomes not about the money. At least for me. Maybe for some people it'll always about the money, which is fine.
Right. And I think that we're probably in a unique position too, where if we find something that has a great story and we also capture it on film, like that's the moment I live for. If I like, it comes out of the ground looking like there's like the perfect angle when it like rolls out of the plug or something. Like,
I do that when I do my endings now. I used to do a traditional wrap up, like a lot of channels do at the end, you lay everything out. But because there's 5 of us and we all take our stuff home,
right.
If I film the wrap up right there, it's just as dirty as it was when I showed it, so now the wrap ups I do are short little B-roll 1 seconds rehashing it as I talk over it. And I love that little, if I'm going to use that 1 second, I love like maybe the 1 second of a coin flip and then it dissolves into something. Like I love the motion that it creates, because essentially you're seeing the same thing you saw,
Right.
5 minutes earlier, because Doug took it home and I don't live with him as much as Doug would like me to.
As much as you'd like to.
Real quick, I just wanted to say that there's about 340 people hanging out with us tonight.
Nice.
So thank you, everybody. And my buddy Marcus, one of my best friends, he's in the chat for the first time.
Oh, welcome, Marcus.
Hey, Marcus.
I feel bad sometimes ignoring the chat because I get
I do that too.
engrossed in conversation.
There's
But everyone,
when would be a good time? I think some people had some questions for Brad, but
yes, Rich, if you have any, please yell them out.
I have one.
Okay, Lynn, you in the back.
Okay. Brad, have you ever found a GW button up there?
No, thank you for rubbing it in.
Well, I guess they're a little elusive up there.
They're tough. I mean, I only know one person from our whole group, Brad, that's found
Jason
one.
wanted her to ask that
What
question.
is that?
I will say, I know a gentleman, Mud Dog Mandy. I don't know if anybody follows him on YouTube.
Yeah, I know.
He has he's an hour away from me, I think, and he has like over 10 of them, I think.
From up there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know a guy named Dave Wise who was in, I think, Connecticut, not far from you, and he's got like 10 of them also, and each one looks better than the last.
Yeah. I know. So I found this place. My boy's in 4-H, so he sometimes go to farms, and I always kind of nudge the farmer. I'm like, hey, anybody ever metal detected been here before? And so this last spring, I got permission to this big farm, and the landowner told me that across the road, a couple of them were found. She thinks. She's not into metal detecting, but she heard the rumor, I guess. So I was really hoping last year I was going to find one like across the road, but I didn't.
Is that the top of your wish list?
I don't even really care to find one, as stupid as that sounds. Like, I know that it's on a lot of people's bucket lists, but like, it seems like people find them often enough. I feel like I'll probably find one eventually.
Yeah.
I'd love to find a tree coin, a tree shelling.
Oh yeah. We always, whenever we go up your way, we always hope for the tree coin too. And
I know a couple people who have found those not too far away from me. I would love to find one of those. But other than that, I don't really have like a bucket list where I'd love to find things that tell a very clear story and like have some kind of like aura behind them, some kind of like legend behind them, something that can like that pendant, right? Like I got that, had a name on it, had a birthday on it. I can like go down the rabbit hole of who this person was, do all like that. Was a dream find for me, just because not just the thing, but everything that goes with it. Yeah,
the story that you, like you said, you could do a whole video just on the research you've done and the backs, and that's nice when you're so fortunate to get a name or a date or something that you don't have to imagine where it came from. There's a trail now. That's always one of the more exciting things. Like
last week, I found my first ever class ring. So now it's like, okay, great. Like maybe we can like figure out who owned this. Like I've never found a class ring before. Unfortunately, the owner would be almost 90. So I think that it's probably slim. We'll find who the owner was, but maybe like a child or sibling.
I don't want to, we're working on something similar now.
Don't get too hyped up over that.
Yeah. What's weird, and I'll
tell you the story after we sign off.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story after we sign off, Brad. Okay. But that is an amazing thing if it works out like you're envisioning. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Gotcha.
There's some things like for me that I won't say they're my bucket list. Like I'm like, every day I'm hoping. But there's some things where I'm just like, man, I can't believe I didn't find one of these because everyone else in the area has found one. It's not like is there anything that's just like it's not like you're dying to get it, but you're just like, wow, how have I not found one when so many of them are found in the area?
Like
Whether
a
it's even
flying eagle.
a coin or anything that you just
So he
think
was
is,
getting at.
yeah, like when am I going to finally get this monkey off my back, sort of a thing.
Not really. I guess the GW would probably be that, because that's the question I get all the time. Like, hey, have you found one of those yet? Like, no, not yet. It's probably coming eventually, but I'm not like out looking
Yeah,
for
you're not
them.
dying for it.
I found like the opposite, which is the loyalist buttons. I have 2 of those.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, I can say, no, I haven't found one of those, but I have found 2 of these. But no, not really. I'm just like, I just love finding anything that tells a story. And if something that can do that, then I'm happy,
I don't blame you. My favorite thing each time we go out is I tell Doug, I just hope we find something that I've never seen before. Don't care what it is.
Exactly.
Because then I'll be real excited. When you find a lot of coppers, and I'm certainly not saying I don't get excited about copper coins, because I do.
Right.
But when you find hundreds of them over the years, it's hard to say new things about them. Like you said, like, sure. I really want to go off on a 5-minute tangent about some fancy new thing that probably Rich finds, because Doug and I don't find as much. So I started having Rich carry a GoPro on his hat and ask him to live dig everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm off somewhere. So now I have a second camera that I'll be able to fill in those live digs that Rich is getting. And
nice.
We're working on the process.
I'm getting better at it.
He's getting better at it. I tell him, look, Rich, make sure the sun is not casting shadows. Make sure this, make sure that. We're working on it. We're going to get him to that point.
Good question for Brad from Adrian Tucker.
Adrian Tucker, good guy.
Adrian Tucker.
Yep. Have you ever gotten lost while you were out in the woods? Like lost?
Oh, good one.
I know nowadays with cell phones, it's a little tougher to get lost, but you've been doing it a while.
I have a couple just stories I can tell. I've never gotten lost. I always say, and these are probably final last words. I feel like it would be difficult to get lost in my area because you can always just walk down and then find water and then follow the water out. Generally, like we don't have huge expanses of just flat area, right? We could generally walk down and find water, but I typically want to find my car again, right? Like not just civilization. I want to find my car
before dark.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I've made a few videos on my buddy Andy's property in the last month or 2, and they have like basically half of a mountain between them and their friends and their other extended family. This is all like fair game, the side of this mountain, and they have crisscrossing trails everywhere. He's like, all right, so you want to go up this trail? I'm like writing it down. Go up this trail, go up this trail, go up this trail, go up this trail, and you'll find a cellar hole. I'm like, okay. And on my way, I like build little cairns or like little sticks so that when I'm coming back, I can find my way back.
Breadcrumb trails.
Yes. So, because if I just look at my phone, like here's my dot of where I am and here's my car, like I could just bushwhack through the forest, but obviously I want to take the trails back. So I do leave myself little trail markers as I go. But one time in particular, I was walking idiotically from one permission to another permission and kind of going through no man's land of state forest to 2 different private lands. And I was walking through and my phone died. And I have since started carrying, battery powered, like extended battery for my phone, but I didn't have that with me. And I actually had to pull out my compass knowing that I was like walking west. I could like pull out the compass and continue to walk west until I got back to an area that I was familiar with. But that was the only time I was like a little bit nervous that I was going to have to walk downhill and find water and then find civilization again.
Yeah, that's tough because I mean, I guess once that sun goes down, you're probably maybe forced to spend the night there unless you want to run through the woods in the dark.
Yeah.
I know when I go out now normally we don't, we go where there's civilization still.
Right.
Once in a while, if we go really far, I'll tell my wife, hey, hon, this is where I'm going to be. So if I don't show up, that's where the search party can start. Do you tell your wife when you're going to the mountains, hey, hon, I'm heading up to Widow's Peak or whatever you call them. So that God forbid, like at least someone knows where you are.
Yeah. So I probably 80% of my permissions these days, videos, are people who have seen my videos and reach out to me and say, hey, like we have this cellar hole on our property. Do you want to come metal detect? And so the morning of, I'll go and as soon as I get there, I'll like have a conversation with a landowner and I'll text her like, not a serial killer. We're good to go. And then as we start like going up into the woods or wherever we're going, I have a Garmin watch that I use for like running. It tracks my track, you know, through GPS. And I turn that on and it shows on a map that gets emailed to my wife, like my path. And it doesn't need cell service to do that. It just goes through GPS.
Oh, nice.
So she can see exactly where I am. And then I'll turn it off when I get to the site. And then I'll turn it back on when I start walking back to the house again or back to my car again.
Yeah. Cause even those walks, Rich, I don't know if you've ever seen you've seen Brad's videos. He's got his metal detector, his shovel. He's got all his camera equipment. He's got everything. He's got to walk up the side of a mountain. That's why that rust pack is so big. He's got to carry so much stuff. I mean, I've seen in some of the old videos, I see him on like a 4-wheeler.
Yes.
But those days are few and far between now, I guess.
Well, I had a pickup truck and I just drive my wheeler into the back of the truck. But now I have like a little Subaru Crosstrek and like, I guess I could buy like a trailer or something, but it's just much more difficult to get the wheeler to different places, you know?
He's on foot.
Yeah.
Do you bring any emergency supplies with you, or are you not really going that far out where you're too worried about it?
I have emergency supplies like a poncho, like a space blanket, lighter, things like that. But like realistically, if I don't come home, I'm sure my wife is going to send like the National Guard out to find me. Like I'm not going to have to spend the night out there more than likely. You know?
And I'm guessing you park your car at the landowner's house, so they're going to know you're out there.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're venturing just out in the wilderness.
No.
When you started
in fact, the last video with Andy, he had to leave to go to work. I posted this video, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he left me up at the foundation, and they texted me actually, and it started raining, and like they texted me and they're like, hey, it's raining, are you coming back? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good, I got like poncho and I'm gonna just walk out. And both him and his dad were like so concerned for me. Like they drove their vehicles to 2 different trailheads, like waiting for me.
Really?
And they're like, do you want us to come up and get you on the wheeler? I'm like, no, I'm good. I got my poncho. I'm just going to walk out. It'll be fine. And they were great, but they were a little concerned that like this guy they just met on the internet was going to like die up in the mountains or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's pretty good. Doug, I'll say the same thing too, is the people that we've met, which are strangers every single week, are so kind to us. Brad, we'll meet them for the first time and they'll say, hey, I got to go to the store. Here's a key to the house if any of you guys have to use the bathroom. You know, like,
right.
Who's going to do that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, people are very, very kind out there. So kudos to people that, are kind. A lot of times there's a lot of bad press in the news and whatnot, but I still think one-on-one, I'm a big believer that most people are good. If you treat them well, they're going to treat you well back.
Sure.
So I'm glad no one left you to die out there. Brad, have you ever had any run-ins with animals? Anything that
sure.
Really? Anything that was a close call? Bear, coyote, anything like that?
I've run into pretty much every animal that lives in Vermont. Moose and bear and coyote and fox, and nothing that's posed a threat ever. The bear always run away. I didn't quite catch it on film. I caught the aftermath on film of Chris and I, and the landowner who invited us out, Joel. We were walking down this trail and like a baby black bear came down and like stopped in the trail next to us and then kept on running. And then we could hear like mama up. So we were like in between mama and baby. And we're just like we're from here. Like, we know, like we got out of there. Like it's a bad situation to be in. But I've never really had any, like had to climb a tree away from a coyote or something, nothing like that. Bigfoot has thrown rocks at me a few times, but other than that,
I had people ask if you've ever had a Bigfoot moment up in the mountains there.
Just take some Jack Links with you.
That's right.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. What was that Lake Champlain monster, Doug?
Champlain.
Champlain. What was that monster's name?
Champ.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a Champ. That's right. Yeah, Champ.
for Champlain. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Duh. I couldn't think of it.
No, I've never had any like kind of weird cryptid experiences. I've been at least twice. I've been to places where I've seen somebody off in the distance kind of walking through, and then I'll talk to the landowner. I'm like, was there supposed to be anybody else out here? And they're like, so it was probably just a trespasser, but
I'd
those
be
are the
more
only.
worried about bumping into another human out in the woods than an animal.
For sure.
Humans are the scariest things when you're not expecting to see them in those
For
kind
sure.
of places.
Well,
Yeah.
how close to the Appalachian Trail are you?
I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean, where the land is, but generally the Appalachian Trail is on national land, which is quite a ways away from any private land.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if Brad carries a firearm or not. I would think that up there maybe it's something you would, and I don't know if with YouTube. I'm sure he doesn't talk about that, but I'm sure he probably makes himself as safe as he can.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I do. I haven't in a while because of the nature of places that I go. I'm in an area of Vermont where sometimes I dip into other states to get where I'm going.
And
you
don't cross state lines necessarily.
Yeah, and you can't really do that with firearms as a Vermonter. But sometimes it depends on how far out I'm going, how deep I'm going. I'm like, I'm not going to wear a handgun if I'm like out in a farmer's field or something. I mean,
sure.
Right.
But
yeah, it's more, I guess I'd be more, like you said, when you're up in the mountains and your visibility is low and there's large animals and you're out of yelling range from someone.
Right.
You have to take certain precautions so you make it out of there.
Sure. Yeah, but like I've been doing this a while now, and I've never had any close calls. And we don't have mountain lions. We don't have like venomous snakes. We don't have. It's like a pretty safe place to be in the woods generally.
Yeah, he does a good job. Rich, did you see any other questions in there from Brad in the chat?
Oh, I mean, there's quite a few.
Any that meet the criteria of a good question. Now, Brad, does I'll ask you a question from a YouTuber to YouTuber that, early on when I started doing this, my wife was, when it was first a hobby and I'd go out for an hour here, an hour there, no big deal. When I started getting more serious about it and I would go out from 7 a.m. until 9 o'clock at night, my wife was not always real thrilled with my new hobby. Have you had any personal boundaries that you had to cross with your wife because it takes so much of your time and you're not home, and to find those 9 things and hike up a mountain might be a 12-hour day? I'm sure at this point she knows it's your job, but early on when it wasn't, did you have any struggles with the time it takes to get this done?
I've never had a 9 to 5 like ever in my life. I've always either been the guitar teacher that's been working, weird hours, like kids get out of school at 2, and then I teach guitar until like 8 o'clock. And then when the microphone thing started kicking off, like I'd be down in my workshop down here, 8 to dinner time or whatever. And I've always kind of like worked from home or worked at in other people's homes and like in the teaching capacity. And so when like the metal detecting thing, I never kind of let it escape the normal like 9 to 5 type of schedule, like to bleed into like family time. But then when it like started making an income, then I had more of an excuse to be like, all right, well, I'm not going to make microphones today. Today, I'm going to go try to find things with my metal detector and make these silly YouTube videos. I always try. There was never like a moment where like I quit my job and then went metal detecting instead. It was a slow, gradual, this thing is making more money than this thing now, so now I'm going to spend more time doing this thing. So she has always been very, very supportive of that. I will say parents or in-laws have occasionally sent like job listings like, hey, these people are hiring. Like, yeah, no, I think I'm doing all right, thank you.
Yeah,
but
there's an opening at Cumberland Farms.
Well, the older generation, they don't realize that it could be a full-time job. Like that doesn't, it just seems like so you have to kind of you try to explain it, doesn't always work out when you try to explain it.
And whenever I meet a new landowner, the agreement, I'm sure that you guys don't have this agreement, but that's fine, is I always offer 100% of everything to the landowners.
We give up almost everything we find.
Okay. So a lot of people in the hobby like totally don't agree with that, right? You want to bring the stuff home that you're finding, but I find it as such like a hard ask to like walk up to a stranger and be like, hey, can I dig holes in your yard and take all the valuable stuff and bring it home?
Yeah.
And I'm in a position where I am generating income from the video itself. So I'm more than happy to give everything to landowners. And I discover that most people don't want the stuff anyways.
Right.
Probably 80% of the time they're like, oh yeah, no. Like,
yeah, we've had to force things on them, because they didn't want them.
Yeah. But talking to the landowners who don't know anything about me, don't know anything about YouTube. And they're like, so like, how does it work? Like, does YouTube like sell ads? I'm like, oh no, yeah, you watch YouTube and you'll see ads, and then that kind of trickles down to the creators and stuff. Typically, like you said, the older generation don't really understand that it can be a thing that you can live on if you get to a certain size.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, it's a pretty amazing thing. Rich, did you see any other ones? We're up on an hour and a half. And I want to try to send it by 9 so Brad can get a good night's sleep.
A couple questions I keep seeing multiple times here are, Brad, are you cool with giving out where somebody could take a look at the microphones
oh yeah.
Or
sure. So you can go to so here's the gimmick, right? So I was building these microphones for myself because I was a poor college kid, and the only thing I wanted to do in the whole world was record a band. But a drum set needs like 7 microphones to record a drum set. So I had a couple very smart people that I knew that told, like, you can just go to Radio Shack and buy parts to build a microphone. You guys remember Radio Shack?
Yeah.
I was like, wow, really? And so like I was able to kind of build myself these microphones, and then I was literally shooting shotguns with Eddie, and it was like, the story of somebody has peanut butter and somebody has chocolate, and like they bang into each other and they create like the Reese's, right? So like I had a pocket full of empty shells, and I had also one of these little microphones in it, and it slipped into the shotgun shell. And I was like, this looks pretty cool, actually. It's like a little outfit for my microphone. And I posted a picture of it on a recording forum, and then it like became a business overnight. Everybody wanted to buy one. So you can go to 12gagemicrophones.com. and they're microphones that look like shotgun shells. It was 2011, I think, I started selling them. And they're on Grammy Award winning albums used by Grammy Award winning producers. And
you've had big name people use them.
Oh yeah. They're on a Taylor Swift album.
Taylor Swift used it?
Yeah. Well, she didn't use it. Her drummer used them.
Yeah, now. Did these people reach out to you? Do you ever talk to them, or are they anonymous buyers?
I mean, they buy them through the website, and sometimes I see their name, like, oh wait, I know that name.
Yeah.
I've had
try to like start a communication, or you just like, well, look, it's business. Just check.
Honestly, these days, not really, because I'm so like metal detecting YouTube these days. I haven't posted on the 12 gauge Facebook in 2 years, I think.
Oh, really?
Like I just stopped advertising totally. And like I said, I still sell enough to have to make them for 2 days a week. But
what was the site again? My main moderator is out in West Coast, so I'm doing it solo today.
12 gauge microphones.com.
12 gauge microphones.com. When it's over, I'll have a link in the description if you want to pick one up. I've seen them before, Brad. I haven't seen you posting them on your Facebook in a while.
I haven't.
Ingenious, invention there.
Oh, thank you. No, it was a gimmick that I posted on the internet, and then it was one of these like stories where I posted it before bed, and I woke up in the morning and I had 200 messages in my inbox, be like, hey, can I buy those? Wow. Can I buy those? Can I buy those? Yeah, it was really bizarre. And then I made that website like overnight, and then it was business.
Rick, I wish I had a picture. I don't have one, but I was talking to Brad at one of I think it was at Audra's event last year. Everyone was detecting, and me and Brad stood in the field and talked for like 5 hours. We didn't really get anything done. Right. But Brad told me that when he used to play guitar, like I'm picturing Brad who, I'm thinking classical guitar, like he said he was in like a heavy metal thrash band. He had real long hair. Like
Well, maybe not quite like that. Yeah, we were a metal band, and I was the singer.
Oh, you were the singer and the guitar player?
And the guitar, yeah. And Chris and I are actually recording a new album of that style music right now. We're 4 songs in.
Really?
Yeah.
If it comes out, I'm going to pick one up. And I still have my jean jacket because I used to have real long hair too. I'll bust out the jean jacket. I'll put a patch on the back of the jean jacket.
Nice. Yeah, I wore like eyeliner. I did the whole thing.
Oh,
I had like multiple piercings.
Are there pictures on your Facebook page? I didn't see any of long hair Brad.
My personal Facebook page, there probably are, yeah. But I don't really. I don't know if we're friends on personal Facebook. I don't like you that much.
I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I'll have to get a picture later because I have pictures of me with long hair. We'll exchange.
Excellent. Excellent.
Doug, did you ever have long hair, Doug?
Yeah.
I guess any hair is longer than the current hair.
Yeah. Guess what? It'll happen to all of you.
Doug, weren't you a musician also? Did you play guitar?
Yeah, a little bit. I wrote country music. Maybe I can get Brad converted to some country tunes next time we see each other.
Maybe you guys could do a collaboration of music one day.
Yeah, I never got into the heavy metal, even though one of my sons was, but more traditional.
Yeah.
And now I'm into pop opera, as you know. That's my biggest.
Brad, thing. You know what Doug does? I'll give a little background. When Doug and I travel, I book Airbnbs, so we have our own rooms. But in the early days, we booked a hotel and we have to share a room. So Doug, when he gets in the shower, he'll bring his phone in and he will put on opera music, which is fine.
Sure.
He blasts it at volume 7,000 while simultaneously singing along with it.
Really?
All out of key and
in Spanish and Italian.
If there was any animals in the house, squirrels, they'll all leave because everything dies.
What about squatters?
It's exciting. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Not squatter. The squatters. Oh, Brad, we stayed in an Airbnb and there was a squatter living in the basement that the Airbnb person didn't disclose.
Yeah.
And we found out from there. Doug and I were scared to death that they were going to sneak up and kill us.
Well, of course. What else would they do?
Oh my! It was hard at the time. It was horrifying, Brad.
It was a little unsettling to say the least.
Yeah. So there you go. Stu Ramsey listened to King Diamond. I used to listen to King Diamond. Do you know King Diamond, Brad?
It sounds familiar.
He was like a heavy metal guy. He was more of like death metal or whatever you call it back in the early 90s. And he wore makeup like Kiss and he would paint his face like the devil.
Okay.
And he sang in a super high pitched voice. What do you call that? Like a falsetto? But he did like heavy metal in this falsetto voice, like a Queensryche kind of a thing.
Interesting.
Very.
That's not what we were doing. We were doing like Slipknot type music.
Okay, like a metal grunge combination sort of a thing.
Sure, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Are there any soundtracks on your site of any of your old heavy metal music?
Oh no, but if you know what to search, you can find it.
What was the name of your band?
I'm not going to say here.
He's not going to say. The first person that can email me a link to one of Brad's heavy metal songs, I'm going to send a quarter hoarder hat to.
I'm glad you said that because I actually remember the name from when we talked about it.
Tell me off air. Let people try to find it.
Say it now.
Yeah, let people try to find it. Another thing. I had another picture, Rich. I'm just gonna show the one because I queued it up. This is the picture when we went, just to prove that Team Green Mountain did indeed beat Team Quarter Hoarder. And they slaughtered us. Brad had I think I have a picture of it. I don't know if it's before this or not. It was before. Let me go back. Brad had this incredible find of that little piece of a seated dime, like a cut piece. And that alone was probably worth enough points to beat our entire day.
There you go.
The silver, the date, the cut. So I just wanted to give Brad the accolades for that.
I still remember when I was right near him and he just goes, "Rich, I think I just found something crazy."
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was Spanish.
It was. I mean,
I would have thought it was Spanish too. But
Yeah.
where we were, they were sharecroppers. They didn't have a lot of money, so maybe even the 2.5 cents was worth cutting it up.
Yeah, and I thought it was a barber until I got home, and I kind of like really took the microscope to the other side of it, and saw that it was actually a seated. That's pretty cool.
Now that was the best find of the day of a day that was mostly all. We had a lot of good buttons and stuff, but very few coins.
Event videos are hard because it's like it's so hit or miss.
Yeah.
When we go to events, I often Brandon Adventure Archaeology is in the chat.
Hey, Brandon.
Brandon, he was at that field. He bumped into us while we were filming out there. Yeah, you're right. One of the things that I do is at events, it's very difficult to make a video, especially at the seated hunts, because you're talking so much. I'm walking around. A seated hunt is not an enthralling video necessarily. Although Doug and I are going the one in about a month. And I have a plan for this one to make a seated hunt, hopefully enthralling. And I think Brandon will be there at the Treasure Fest down in Arkansas. So now one of the things that I busted Brad's chops about, Rich, was with all the gear that Brad has, these nice cameras and the $1,600 metal detector and all the leather this and leather that. He uses a $5 Dollar General shovel.
It says it right there. It's the Dollar General yellow.
Yeah, now, Brad, why is it now? One of the guy that sponsors me in the chat, which is excaliburshovels.com.
Yes.
Incredible shovel. Now, at this point, do you stick to your guns because that's just who you are, Brad, with the cheap wooden shovel? Or is there a reason you're still hanging on to that little guy? When you hook onto a tree root, which you must do in the woods, don't you feel like you're going to bend or break it? I mean, how many, is that the same one from years back, or do you have to buy a new one every 2 weeks?
This isn't actually mine. This is like a backup for guests and for buddies.
Oh, okay. Because I thought yours was wooden.
That's what I was going to say. The one that I use is wooden. It has I was busting your chops. It's an American hickory handle. It's got to be American hickory. No, I've never broken a shovel. I stand with, if you've broken a shovel, you're using it wrong.
Rich broke 2 metal ones.
I know. And and I prefer wood because if you're going to be prying on something, the wood is going to bend a little bit. It's going to give a little bit. You're not going to break anything, right? You're going to have a little bit of a shock absorber when you hit a rock. I've never broken a shovel with my wooden handle. It's not as cold as a metal one would be if you're out in the woods during the winter time.
I'll give you
right?
that.
It's not as heavy. I like the wide spade. I used to have one of I think it was a Lesh. It was a big long, it was like the classic made out of bar metal, right? Welded at the bottom. And I felt like I had to go around the hole like 10 times to get a plug because the spade it was like a hand shovel size spade on a big long handle. I don't know. I just like the one that I got.
Because your blade's not even serrated, right? It's just like a traditional rounded off shovel blade, like you'd shovel snow or something.
I don't have trouble with roots. I mean, if I'm like up next to an oak tree and there's roots this big around, I have to go around them, but I'm not really getting hung up on roots at all. I'll
give Brad a lot of credit. Listen, Doug, any shovel manufacturer out there would give their left arm to have Brad use their shovel, but he sticks true to what he wants. He likes that dollar store shovel. It does a good job for him. And hey, listen.
Actually, I want to set the record straight. It's Aubuchon. Do you guys have Aubuchon down there?
What's that?
It's a hardware store.
Oh, I never heard of it. Aubuchon.
Yeah.
It's an Aubuchon shovel.
I've heard of
Aubuchon shovel. All right. Well,
not sponsored.
To be fair, the first one I broke, the ground was very frozen, and that made sense. But the second one, we were just in a yard.
Yeah, we were in someone's yard. It was soft dirt. The blade itself snapped in half. The blade.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I really don't buy into like hopefully I don't create any enemies with this, but it's like the Orvis of like fly fishermen, right? Like they get all dressed up in all of the clothes and you catch the same fish as the guy in jean shorts with the spinning rod, right? It's like the same thing. I'm very much the guy in the jean shorts with the spinning rod. Like
Yeah,
I don't
that coming from the guy who's got the $2,000 XP2 metal detector. Yeah, keep singing me that song, Brad.
but you know, that's my mentality with the shovel.
All right.
It works fine. My other thing that I say every once in a while is like shovels haven't changed much in the last 4,000 years, right? They're all generally the same shape and they've always had wooden shovel or wooden handles.
All right,
Now,
I'll give it to him. Now, I
do
will, Rich, real fast. I just want to say real quick, because the shovel sponsor is in my chat.
I know that.
I do want to say that.
Let me butt in. If one of these companies that make the metal detecting specific shovels make one with a wooden handle, I am all in.
Well, I don't know if they do that, but I'll mention
there
it
aren't
to
any.
them.
But
And I will say before we move on that the Excalibur shovel did change their design, where over the lesh there's little the handle when it comes up is cocked. So when you grab onto it, you instantly have better leverage.
Interesting.
So not everything is created equally. I do know that Brad likes holding his wood. So let him.
Well, they could do that with a wooden one, though.
Yeah, they could do.
I actually just got an email this morning from a shovel company, and they were saying that they have one with a carbon fiber handle.
That's similar to your wood, right? That's similar.
Yeah,
to
but
wood.
it's not. It's not like it's not natural, you know.
I can see Brad being in the wood. He's into the leather and he's into that kind of stuff. So
I charred mine. I charred it.
Eric Thompson has a question. Rich, write that down when he's done. Eric Thompson had a question.
Write it down. Yeah.
Well, I guess just read it.
I can read it.
Okay, Brad, read your own question.
Okay,
please.
Brad, do you use LiDAR to find the home sites or just maps?
Good question from Eric Thompson.
Well, you're going to get the Brad Martin exclusive here. This is the first time I've ever said this anywhere.
Oh, drum roll, Doug. Give a drum roll.
I never talk about LiDAR because I feel like it's way too powerful of a tool for the people just entering the hobby that don't know the rules when it comes to private land, state land, national land. And I know that personally from other people that I've spoken to that have gone to places that they shouldn't have because they looked at a LiDAR map and saw something that looked interesting. And they're like, you're not supposed to go there. You know that, right? And they're like, no, I did not know that. So I just never mention it. That being said, I have used it. I've used it for a very long time from the beginning, but I don't really use it to find places. Cause as I mentioned, a lot of the places that I go now are people reaching out to me and saying, hey, I have this thing already on my land. I will use it to kind of confirm locations and see if maybe there are other places the landowner doesn't already know about. But generally the old maps are what I focus on the most because it'll usually give a name and something I can go down the rabbit hole for and try to figure out who these people were and what the story was. But I do use both of those things. But honestly, the old maps are more valuable in the long run as far as it goes with video making.
No, I agree. Now, the only thing I'll say is when we've used old maps, a lot of those old maps are hand drawn, and where they drew something, in reality, could be 100 yards to the east. Where the LiDAR, you're dead on accurate.
Right. I will say too, though, is a very, very recent experience with my buddy Andy on his land. He and his family and his friends have hunted this land for literally generations, and they knew about foundations that did not show up on LiDAR.
Really?
And so
were they underground foundations?
They were just real shallow, and the ground is so rugged and rocky. Everything looks like a foundation.
I've had to change, in certain LiDARs, you can look at it different ways, like it's a slope or it's a shaded relief, or it's so I've had things show up in one and not in the other, and so I always try to check everything.
Sure. Yep. For some reason, this particular side of this mountain, it's very steep and it's very rocky, and two of them that we visited, I went back to look and you couldn't even see them on the LiDAR, so the old maps were key for that.
Well, there you go. So, and it's for someone who's new, it's difficult finding LiDAR maps, or at least I haven't seen. Like you have to kind of really navigate through the sites to get to them.
Sure.
So, but they are a good tool. But if you use it responsibly.
Exactly.
You know, because what you do could impact me and Brad because it gives everyone a bad name. So I'm not trying to rat anybody out, but don't sneak on land you're not supposed to. If you're not sure, ask. Don't just go.
Right.
There was another question I had, Rich, and I don't remember what it was now because I took my mind off of it. Son of a gun.
Here's one.
I can't
Brad,
remember. I had a good one.
Have you ever used a whalebone shovel?
What the heck is that?
I don't know. It was in the chat. It's
You
obviously,
said it was a good one.
It's obviously
it was a good one, Rich.
Let me Google it. I can imagine what it would look like, but I'm not sure for sure. So the answer is no. I don't think so.
No, it's a joke. It's just a shovel made of whalebone.
Oh, made of whalebone.
Oh,
it's illegal to hunt whales now, and so obviously.
That's a sophisticated joke. It went right over my head.
Yeah, it was a sophisticated joke. Brad, have you ever lost a drone in a tree? I know you're big on the drone shots. Have you lost one? They're expensive suckers.
I have flown my drone into a tree one time because they have these like preset motions that you can have them do. Yeah. So I was, doing the metal detecting thing and like pretending I was metal detecting, and I hit the go thing on the drone and it would do like a big loop around me and it flew into a tree and it got stuck in the tree. And then I actually climbed the tree and retrieved it.
I can picture you climbing a tree. I could say, can you picture me or Doug, Rich, climbing a tree? No, but I could picture Brad climbing a tree to get his drone.
It's in the video that it happened in.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Doug, do you remember that video?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
I would have loved to see because I could picture Brad looks like he's thin, he's fit. I could see him climbing a tree.
Yeah. My buddy Chris was with me.
I would be that guy if we got something stuck in the tree.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah. You're going.
I wouldn't mind.
You'd stand on Doug's shoulders and you'd go right up the tree.
Yeah.
That's only happened the one time. Some other times I've been like flying for some reason. Do you have a drone that you've played with?
I have a drone, but I've never taken it because we do mostly houses. And I feel like we're already asking so much from a stranger. There's a circus coming to town. Now can I have a drone over your name? Like it might be too much.
Well, now you're supposed to have a permit for.
Yeah, I heard
now
that.
You are. Yeah.
So you know that when they get close to the ground, they kind of go into this like auto land thing. So I was like flying it up a stream. And like something weird was happening with like its sensor at the bottom, and it was like really trying to go into the water, and I almost lost it that time, and I had to like kind of pull it back. But other than that,
they're expensive, but man, I do love that footage. It's just such a different, neat perspective.
Sure.
And it's a lot of work though to carry more gear around. You got to take it out, you got to program it, you got to set it up, you got to pretend like you're detecting so you can get the, everything takes time. And I hope people realize that for every 5 seconds of footage you see in Brad's video, maybe an hour, 2 hours went into that 5 seconds from time to, set it up, shoot it, film it, edit it.
Admittedly, though, I typically don't bring the drone with me metal detecting. I'll film like a bunch of scenic shots, like different times of the year. And I've just got like, I'll just use it.
Yeah. It just gets used over and over and over when it's fitting.
Question you've gotten a few times. Have you ever? I know you already talked about animals and everything.
Yeah.
Has there been a time you actually got scared, like really spooked, when you were out?
That time Doug went up to him in the field in North Carolina.
Yeah, actually. I think it's the only time in my life I had like a legitimate panic attack. Eddie and I were filming The Vault of DeGrau. If you guys have not seen this series, this is going to sound ridiculous. But
is it the tower? Did you go up
a tower? No, we didn't go up a tower, but we went to Bristol, Vermont, to the Devil's Pulpit because a psychic we hired told us there'd be treasure up there. Wow. And so we climbed.
You believed them?
No, but we had to make a video.
Have to look.
For video purposes. Yeah.
And so there was supposedly a trail that It's a wild story. So this land is now state land, but it was one time owned by a private person where there was this treasure story, and people back in the 1800s spent years of their life looking for it and dynamiting it and digging holes. And it's like this crazy place, but it's owned state land now. But we found the guy that used to own it, and he actually gave us a tour of the area, and he told us all the stories about all these people coming like in the 2000s to come also look for this treasure. Anyway, he told us about this like donkey path that went up the mountain somewhere, and we couldn't find it. So we're like, let's just go up the mountain. And we should have had ropes and like carabiners and done the whole thing, but we were just doing this, and we got to a spot that was kind of flat, and I sat down to like shoot some B-roll as I do. And I'm like, we're going to die. Like, this is so dumb. Like, and Eddie, I have a clip of this, and Eddie's like, we're professionals, it'll be fine. And I stop and I look at him like, we are not professionals, Eddie. Like, this is really, really dumb. And somehow we got up to the top, and I calmed down a little bit, but it was like, I've never felt like that ever before. I felt like we were going to fall down the face of the mountain and die.
That would be another. I can't tell you, Rich. I probably see 2 or 3 stories on the internet a year about like some YouTuber, TikToker that like is on a cliff and they're taking a selfie and they fall over the, like Brad would have been that.
That would have been me.
Would have been reduced to that.
Well, you see those free climbers, the guys climbing crazy stuff.
But they're professional free climbers. Brad's kind of an amateur in that regard.
How do you get to that point? I've always wondered.
To where you just like, I'm not going to use ropes anymore. I'm just going to. They have to be really confident in your ability. I think that though they do those routes like 100 times, the same exact rocks that they put their hands on.
Those guys can hang from one finger for an hour, Rich. I mean, when you do it that much.
No. And Eddie and I had like 3 cameras on my back. Eddie had a shotgun because there was a story of hellhounds being in the area. And he had like salt shotgun shells full of salt, like from the show Supernatural, and we're like, we're going to shoot some hellhounds. And what a dumb idea that was. But, it happened, and we got it all on camera, and it was fun.
Wow.
At the end.
Brad, Rich, you remember when we were in North Carolina with Brad, at the end of his DeGraw series, someone flew out to Vermont from, where was he from, Brad?
Kansas City.
From Kansas City. Flew out to Vermont.
Yeah.
Found the treasure that Brad had hid. Do you remember the gentleman's name?
Do I?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
All right, it's eluding him. I'll keep going, but he'll remember.
Sorry.
But a gentleman flew out, found the treasure, and then when we were in North Carolina, the same gentleman saw us all in a field and came up again. And
Ben Harper.
I remembered him at the time.
Ben Harper. Sorry, Ben.
Harper, yes.
I had a brain fart.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I was a terrible host that I did. But and he said he found it in like a day. Guy had no idea the terrain of Vermont. He lives in Kansas City, comes up to the mountains of Vermont, and through the clues found it in like one day.
Yeah. So for your audience who doesn't know who I am and doesn't know what the show was, we wanted to make this mini series, finding this legendary Vermont treasure. That is a very real story that's in books way back in the 1800s, talking about this like Spaniard who came to Vermont and for some reason left behind a bunch of treasure in a cave. And there's all of these great folklore stories way back to the 1700s in Vermont. The people who live in those towns where those treasure stories are, everybody knows those stories. They grew up hearing those stories. That guy I was talking about who owned that land, he said every weekend there were people up there looking for that treasure, right? And so our plan was for this series, we knew we weren't going to find it at the end, but we wanted to tell the stories of the people that hired the psychics, the people that hired the dowsing rod guys that looked for the treasure. We hired somebody to teach us how to do the dowsing rods too. We wanted to do all of the things that these people before us did to look for this treasure. And then throughout the series, try to debunk it, which we did. And then in the end, how do we have a satisfying ending to a series where we know we're not going to find the treasure at the end, instead of having cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger like some other shows? We wanted to have an ending. And so the ending that we came up with was, we're going to kind of steal this legend from the people of Vermont and debunk this story. We want to put something in its place. We're going to hide our own treasure, a real treasure that people can go find, our audience can go find. And we're going to hide the clues to find it in the series itself, selfishly as a YouTuber, so people go back and watch the videos multiple times, right? And it just so happened to end. So it's a longer story, but we planned it very poorly. We didn't know when it was going to end. We didn't really have an ending, like the content of the episodes in mind. We had the final goal in mind, but we weren't really sure what we were going to do episode 6, 7, 8. Once we figured that out, it was like January, and we published the finale, and there was a foot of snow where we hit it, and we're like, nobody's going to find this thing until at least spring, right? And the Forest Fen treasure had just been found. You guys familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, we're going to have the new Forest Fen
Yeah.
treasure. It's not $1 million, it's $1,000, but still.
Yeah.
And old Ben, he like cracked the code in 1 or 2 days, and then he like told his wife, I'm jumping on an airplane and going to Vermont. And it was a couple days before Christmas, and he hiked up in there and he found it with his sister, I believe, and his niece. And he said that as he was walking out with the treasure in his backpack, another person was walking in, like nobody would be in there unless they were looking for the treasure, right?
Wow.
So like he passed another guy who was going to look for it, didn't find it, of course. But yeah, he found it in like 4 days. It did not become
hoping, I'm sure that it would go for.
Yes.
Oh, look, Ben Harper is in the chat.
Come on, Ben. I'm sorry I forgot your name 10 minutes ago.
Well, I've been throwing questions at him. So yeah, Ben, you know, in what Brad was hoping might linger on for years, and referencing back and all sorts of parties coming in. Ben cracked the code in 2 days. You should have worked for the government in World War II, Ben. We could have used you in that code cracking ability. But
yeah, so
him. I mean, in the snow, didn't know where he was, and got right up there and nabbed it. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, so that was that. So I don't remember why we started talking about this, but we ran into Ben down in North Carolina, and I had met him very briefly before that, but we actually got to kind of stop and talk to each other for a long time at that event. It was fun.
No, that's amazing that, you know, that he was able to decipher that. And I'm glad he got to, you know, say hello in the field in there. What did he put? He went back to the spot with his kids a couple weeks ago. So
right. He sent me a picture of that. Yeah. They had the t-shirts on and everything. It was great.
So, yeah. Good
guy. I think I remember him saying, I was there when you guys were talking, and I think he didn't find it immediately, and he had to research the air. He was like, I know it's here. So we have to look again. And then they ended up finding it.
It's a great story. He took a bunch of footage, and I was able to edit into our like interview, and I think it came out great.
That's cool. Now it's amazing. We tried to do that once, not nearly on that scale. A vendor I was working with at the time said, "Hey, next week, Jay, is National Metal Detecting Day," or whatever it was. It was stupid. And he said, "Can you go? We're going to give away like $100 gift card. Can you go hide it somewhere and make a video?" And he gave me like 2 days notice. And same thing. I went and hid it somewhere. And so one person found it. Another person told me they were on their way. You remember that, Doug?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and they were going to win a day metal detecting.
I was giving away, and one of the prizes, along with the $100, I was going to invite them to go hunt with us in the winter, because they found it like in the summer. We were doing houses, and when winter came, I emailed them, never heard back again. So I don't know what came of it. And I've been reluctant to give away a prize of joining us.
Yeah,
because you know that's a big prize, Brad. The whole day with me and Doug.
I would like to win that prize. I'll try to find that guy and buy it off him.
But he still won the $100, so that was pretty cool.
Well, Brad, you're welcome to join us anytime.
Anytime.
I'll take you up on that.
Brad's one of the few.
Anytime.
Yeah, maybe he can get Gedlin.
I was going to say, off the subject, how many times do you get recognized out in public?
Oh,
yeah, recognized, Brad.
Events are a different
not
thing.
Counting events.
No, just out on in daily
in the
life.
real world.
Yeah,
maybe once a month.
That's still a lot. That's more than I get. That's more than I get.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, every once in a while, if I'm in like a big crowd of people, sometimes, but it very rarely, like, you know, at the local grocery store or something.
That's where Rich gets recognized every other week, at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, at the grocery, and people in the chat watch every week and find Rich because Rich has a unique look. You can see Rich from a mile away.
I've been recognized in the grocery store in a trading card shop and in a liquor store.
Wow.
Doug gets people see him in the brothels all the time.
I look like 40,000 other old Irishmen.
Yeah, like I went to the Vermont State Fair last week, and big crowds of people, Vermonters like that I'll run into a person or two, but you know, like maybe a couple months ago I was at Home Depot and some lady wanted to take my picture with me, and like I had my boy with me. I felt like such a rock star in front of my 8-year-old.
Yeah.
He was like, wow.
I got recognized once when my son was there, and that was kind of cool, because even though he knows I do YouTube, I'm dad. I'm a dork.
Right, right.
So little does he know that I'm a dork to everyone. Let me see. I had one more I just saw, and then I don't want to have Brad on here forever. And what happens is I talk, Brad, and then I lose track of my thought. I don't even see it now. All right. Well, we'll probably bring this to a close in a minute. Doug, do you have any questions for Brad before I call it a night?
No.
Brad, did you see our Beavis and Butthead episode?
I sure did. I was so jealous as a millennial.
Did you see? Rich,
I did. I recognized them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my claim to fame, Brad. We were on Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Like I was saying, I'm a millennial and I grew up watching Beavis and Butthead religiously. That was like the exact time frame for my age at that time. Super jealous.
Really?
I actually haven't seen the show. I saw the clips. I found it on YouTube or what you shown and stuff. Yeah. I haven't seen like the redone show yet. It's on like a channel I don't have, I think.
It's on Comedy Central now.
Okay.
And Paramount Plus.
That's right.
Nobody has that channel.
No. But yeah, I can't wait to
Doug has it.
Dive into it.
No, it was exciting. And you know what's Brad funny is, not that I want to make the show about me, but when they told me they were going to do Beavis and Butthead, I'm thinking we're going to have a 30-second cameo or something, my name won't even be up there. Doug, we must have like 18 minutes.
Really?
Brad, we had the entire show.
I didn't realize that. That's
they made fun of Doug mostly, so it was basically just like my show.
Quite that long. They just
it was long. 15
it was
minutes.
Longer than I thought it would.
15 minutes. It just went on and on and on and on.
Now, when the email come in, was there like something in the back of your head that was like, "This is spam," or did it seem like legit?
No, at first I thought
about everything.
Yeah, at first I thought it was spam, but then I looked into the company. You know how you do. You do the same thing. You look into the company. I saw it was legit. They wanted to do a Zoom interview, and I said, "All right, I'll entertain it." And then I quickly realized the process was very long, though. From when they first contacted me till when the show aired was probably 20 months.
Yeah,
very. And I kept forgetting about it, and then it would come back again. I'd forget about it, and
well, then they sent us the waivers to sign or whatever it is, and then we didn't hear anything for like a year. Almost a year, and so we just
stole your identity. And
I didn't even know it was coming out. I found out because the day it aired, people started messaging me. You're on Beavis and Butthead, because I didn't want to say anything, because oftentimes these things don't work out. And then you look like a boob.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it just it just came out, and people were messaging me, "You're on Beavis and Butthead," and then I'm like, "Well, crap! I don't want to buy the Paramount Plus network." And I found it on YouTube also.
You do the free trial, but then you always forget to cancel it.
Yes, they get you.
Got me.
You have got to like call them to cancel or something.
Yeah, it's easy to sign up. It's impossible to cancel. Well, I'm working on getting this on the Smurfs, and if I do, Brad, I'll invite you down for that episode.
Please, please.
Yeah.
I'll have to use a blue shovel,
you'll look good in
wooden shovel.
Yeah, you'll look good. Lynn's gonna play Gargamel. Lynn, remember Gargamel?
No.
All right, listen, we're going to get ready to get out of here. I feel bad. I've had Brad 2 hours. Now,
had a blast.
If you don't know, I mean, if you live under a rock, Brad's videos come out every Friday, and you put them out at like, what, 6 a.m, Brad? I mean, they're there when I wake up. I don't know what time they actually appear.
Probably, depending on where you live, at 6 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, it's really early. He makes the most of the day. But Green Mountain Metal Detecting on YouTube, fantastic. I'm going to even say that he probably has the most popular metal detecting channel that there is worldwide. if you look especially at the views he gets, I don't care about subscribers. Subscribers is just bragging rights.
Can I say something?
Not yet. I'm still talking. Just look at the views he gets. The most popular metal detecting show in the world, right there, Mr. Brad Martin. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I don't think that's true, but I appreciate the sentiment behind it.
I do, and I think it's worthy of that.
Thank
accolade.
you.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
usually start watching around 10 o'clock, between 10 and 11 in the morning. And I look at the views. He's got like 17,000 views already.
He's
Did
created
he
an
do that?
empire. He's created an empire. And
But in deference to him, and the more I learn about Brad, the more you appreciate the guy's multi-talented.
Thank
And
you.
he puts as much, I know, into putting his videos up as you do. And that means it's going to be a good product. And then on top of that, he finds some really neat stuff. So, it's just remarkable that between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning, he's got all these views already. That's how popular the channel is.
Well earned too. I mean, like I said, you can see the guy cuts no corners, very professional. You wouldn't even think you're watching a YouTuber. So that's a pretty remarkable thing. I don't think anyone. Yeah, Brad, you don't own a fart box, do you? A fart box, no, like a machine, a remote control fart machine.
No, I saw the clip that you guys, Lynn had one, right?
Did you see that?
Yeah, you called them up. And
somebody was referencing it in the chat, asking if Brad has a fart box. I said,
I don't, but it's a pretty good idea. I mean, I don't have it's usually just me in the woods, so I could just let it go.
Oh, you can do that, Brad. You can be like talking about your fine with the camera and in the fart box,
right?
Pretending like you don't notice.
Exactly.
Well, if somebody is alone in the woods in the mountains and he farts, does it really happen?
Well, when you're filming,
there's a camera on.
When you're filming and 17,000 people watch before 10 a.m., it does count.
It's been almost a decade that I have been saying in one of my videos, just I'm going to hire one of my friends in a giant gorilla costume to just quietly walk behind me, right? And maybe we could combine that with the fart box in some way so that we could, have a little bit of a Bigfoot situation.
Not only were you the first to film Bigfoot, but you got him farting.
That's right. Double first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Rich, I could probably talk to Brad for 12 hours, and I'm sure we're going to have him back on again. He's one of my favorite people, one of my most respected people in the hobby, even outside of the hobby. Just a great all-around good guy. So if you don't follow Brad and subscribe, make sure you check him out. He's on YouTube, Green Mountain Metal Detecting. He's on Facebook, Green Mountain Metal Detecting. He's got Instagram. I saw you got a TikTok. He's got all the things. And he's got the website, the GMMD.us. You can pick up your swag. You can purchase the music, the original music he makes. Multifaceted, multi-talented guy. And I appreciate you making the time to come on our little thing that we call a show, Brad. Thank you very much. I'm
honored. You guys are top 5 favorite metal detecting YouTube people. I mean, you guys are, I've said it to people just in my private life, especially all of you, but especially Jason, personality, larger than life. You should have twice as many subscribers as I have. I scare people away. I'm a little loud. No. I wish I could talk as slow and clearly as Brad does, but I just talk too fast. Because if I don't say it right away, I forget it. There's something wrong with my brain, Doug. Yeah. So, but listen,
I always said about Jason that he's part carnival barker, he's part circus ringmaster, and the other part chatty Cathy. You combine all of that, and you got Jason. You got to be a little chatty. I told Brad in the green room before the show about the episode when Dielich was on, and my mic got muted, and for like 7 minutes. And when I watched the show back, I was like, oh man, I hope Doug told a funny story, cracked a joke. It was like 7 minutes of dead silence. It was the most awkward, uncomfortable for everybody involved. I took that as nap time. And I was like, oh my goodness, Doug.
So it's not easy to talk.
You got to point to me for me to say anything.
I know. It's just it just goes to show that my channel, I've been fortunate that it's had some success. Brad's channel, I think they're totally different, even though they're covering the same hobby. So it just goes to show, if you're a new person that wants to start a YouTube channel, you don't have to be like Brad. You don't have to be like me. Be yourself and find a way to make that enjoyable for others. There is no formula, but you can find a way. Stay true to yourself and look at the success guys like Brad have. Unbelievable.
Thank you. One of these days I'm going to figure out that formula, but haven't yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to write it down, but you know it when you feel it.
Right.
So, all right, Doug, I think we're going to end the show all together. So usually I kind of stick around a little bit. Thank you again to my moderators. I missed a lot of them. I saw Chris Wicked Digger was in there. Of course, Alicia was in there.
Hot Mess Fishing and
Hot Mess Fishing is in there. Thank you, everybody that came in. There was probably a ton of questions that I didn't see. I'll make sure I get them for when Brad comes back on again. So thank you, everybody. And Brad, again, Charlie wasn't here because it was his birthday week. Charlie,
happy birthday.
Who's usually in your square. So Charlie, 77. God bless him, Brad. I hope we make it there one day. So, but we're going to take off. Brad, if you don't mind, stick around for a second. I'm going to end the show and I'll talk to you in the green room. Sounds good. Everyone else, thank you for watching. Doug, any last words?
Everybody have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Make sure you tune in for Brad's. It'll probably be on in less than 12 hours.
6 o'clock in the morning with 12,000 views by 10.
That's right. It's going to be a good one. It's
8 a.m. 8 a.m. Eastern time.
8 a.m. Rich, any last words, Lynn, before I call this a night?
No, just
it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show, Brad, and thanks for almost 400 people hanging out tonight.
Oh, wow.
And,
thank you. Yeah, I was going to have a whole bunch of notes and have questions and all that, but I find that takes me out of the moment. So I almost like to just have generic notes so I can
spontaneous.
When I want to hear what he says, because I'm curious. Yeah. So, all right, I'm closing it out, Doug. 2 and some hours. So thank you for hanging, everybody. Thank you for watching. Happy hunting. Make sure you watch Brad on Friday. And of course, the Quarter Hoarder Gang on Tuesday. But thank you for watching. Happy hunting. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Later. Thanks, Brad.
Good night.